Hey, how you doing? This is week 2, and so I guess my intention here is to make a short little video like this for each of the readings. So my aim here, by the way, is to do something short. These don't really substitute for like a full-blown lecture, say, that you might get in a classroom, I guess. Although there are also some very short notes that I post as well on Blackboard, but basically nobody really wants to watch me in a video for very, very long. So I just kind of keep them to a few minutes, but certainly if you have questions or further things, either bring them up in discussion or shoot me an email, and we can deal with it that way. But I just want to touch on just some of the main points. So in this case, on the piece from Marilyn Frye, which comes out of a book which at least once looked like this, called The Politics of Reality. Her piece on oppression. Basically that revolves largely around a certain kind of metaphor that she uses. That's the birdcage metaphor or image or whatever it is, which is a very useful one, and she kind of develops that, and then it stays with her as she goes into more detail. But the main idea there, as she, I guess, says pretty clearly, is that just like a birdcage, oppression needs to be thought about as a system. There's something systematic about it. Just like the cage, no single wire keeps the bird from flying away. No single wire really would do anything at all, but taken all together, they form a certain system which sure enough keeps the bird in a cage. So that's kind of the metaphor that she's using to think about oppression and to say, at least when you're talking now about oppression, as in the case of oppression of women, it can be hard to see. Right? It takes a real special effort. In fact, it seems to take some will to be able to see that. It's all too easy to lose sight of the way that various different things, and they could be different sorts or kinds of oppression, whether political or economic or psychological, how these all work together. It really takes a special effort to bring that into focus and to recognize it for what it is. So that's a very important point that she wants to make. I'm just going to mention one other thing that comes up there, and it's maybe good for discussion too. She doesn't call it this, I think, but nowadays it's often termed benevolent sexism. So her example, at least one of them, is the door opening example, right? Where it seems on the face of it something actually quite nice, say, a very, polite gesture or something. But, it has this kind of gender dimension to it, and she thinks that even things like that can be understood as part of that sort of cage-like sort of system of elements of oppression that maintain inequality between women and men. So that those kinds of examples, if you can think of some, are probably quite useful. So that's just another way she thinks it can be hard to see, because some of these things, when you just look at them in isolation, don't necessarily even appear to be bad things at all. It's only when you set them within that larger view, where you see how they sort of work together in a systematic way, that you see that things aren't as simple as they might seem, basically. So I think she uses a word toward the end, and I just have this in mind because I know that Sandra Lee Bartke uses something like this too. She talks about how it can be mystified, right? How it is that something so pervasive and in a certain sense so obvious can nonetheless actually we can fail to notice it somehow. That it can mystify us what is actually going on. Now, they're obviously trying to demystify this. Good for them, and hopefully that some of the things they say can help to that end. But I'll just leave that for now.